The hospital smelled of antiseptic and quiet despair, a sterile haze that clung to the walls and seeped into my bones. I sat by Mom's bedside, her frail hand trembling in mine, her once vibrant eyes now clouded with the fog of illness. At 67, Mom was a shadow of the woman who'd raised me, Lillian Harper, the heart of our small family, who'd spent her life pouring love into every corner of our world. Breast cancer had crept in 2 years ago, slow at first, then relentless. Now, in this pale room, with monitors beeping softly and 4 lines snaking across her arm, I felt the weight of her fragility like a stone in my chest. I was Emily Harper, 32, her only daughter, and the one who'd promised to see her through this. I'd taken leave from my teaching job, moved back into our old Victorian home in upstate New York, and made her care my entire world. Every doctor's appointment, every sleepless night, every whispered prayer, it was all for her. But I wasn't alone in this vigil. There was Claire. Claire Dawson, my cousin, was 34, with sharp cheekbones and a smile that could charm a room or cut like glass, depending on her mood. She'd breezed into our lives 6 months ago, claiming she wanted to help after years of estrangement. Mom, ever the optimist, welcomed her with open arms, seeing only the niece she'd once adored. I was wary, but Mom's joy at Claire's return softened my edges. Family is everything, Emily, she'd said, her voice weak but firm. Let her in. Claire moved into the guest room, her designer bags a stark contrast to the faded wallpaper. She was quick to take charge, scheduling appointments, managing Mom's medications, even handling the finances. You're exhausted, Em, she'd say, her voice dripping with concern. Let me take some of the load. I was grateful at first. Teaching had drained me, and the endless cycle of hospital visits left little room for anything else. Claire's efficiency felt like a lifeline, but something was off. I'd catch her on the phone, her tone low and urgent, discussing things she'd brush off as work. She'd linger over Mom's financial documents, claiming she was organizing them. When I asked questions, her answers were vague, her smile too quick. Just making sure Aunt Lillian's comfortable, she'd say, but her eyes never met mine. One evening, I found Mom staring out the hospital window, her hands twisting the blanket. Emily, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Claire says we're running out of money for my treatments. She's handling it. Her words hit like a punch. Mom's savings, her pension, the small inheritance from Dad, it was enough to cover her care for years. I'd seen the accounts myself. How could we be running out? I confronted Claire that night in the hospital cafeteria, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on her face. What's going on with Mom's money? I demanded, keeping my voice low. She sipped her coffee, unruffled. Medical bills pile up. Em, you know that. I'm just trying to keep things afloat. Show me the statements, I said, my heart pounding. She sighed, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. You're stressed. I get it. I'll pull everything together tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. She dodged, deflected, and distracted, and I let it slide, too consumed with Mom's worsening condition to push harder. I trusted her. I shouldn't have. Weeks later, I found a letter tucked in Mom's nightstand, addressed to Claire. It was from a lawyer, mentioning a foundation in Mom's name, supposedly to fund cancer research. The letter thanked Claire for her generous oversight and referenced a transfer of $500. 000. My stomach dropped. Mom didn't have the strength to set up a foundation, and she'd never mentioned this. I dug deeper, rifling through Claire's desk when she was out, and found bank statements, Mom's accounts, drained to almost nothing. Transfers, withdrawals, all funneled to an account I didn't recognize, with Claire's name attached. The truth hit like a tidal wave. Claire wasn't helping. She was stealing. My cousin, the woman Mom trusted, was exploiting her illness for money, hundreds of thousands. Maybe more. I felt sick, betrayed, but above all, furious. This wasn't just theft. It was a violation of everything Mom stood for: love, trust, family. I vowed then, in the quiet of that hospital room, that I wouldn't just stop Claire. I'd make sure her name was erased from our lives, from Mom's legacy, from history itself. She'd taken enough. Now, it was my turn to fight. The hospital room felt smaller each day, the walls closing in as Mom's breathing grew shallower. I sat by her side, holding her hand, but my mind was a storm. Claire's betrayal gnawed at me, a raw wound I couldn't ignore. I needed proof, hard, undeniable evidence before I could confront her. She was too slippery, too good at spinning stories. If I was going to take her down, I had to be smarter. I started small, discreetly. At night, when Claire was out running errands, I searched her room. Her laptop was password protected, but she'd left her phone on the dresser once, and I'd seen her unlock it their birthday. Predictable. I used it to access her email, my heart racing as I scrolled through messages. There were dozens, maybe hundreds, between Claire and someone named Victor Grayson, a name I didn't recognize. The emails were cryptic but damning, the foundations a perfect cover. One read, "Keep funneling the funds. She won't notice." Another mentioned a final transfer of $1 million. My hands shook as I forwarded the emails to myself, deleting the sent copies to cover my tracks. Victor Grayson, I learned through a quick online search, was a financial consultant with a shady reputation. His website boasted about discreet wealth management, but a few buried forum posts hinted at fraud investigations that never stuck. Claire had found the perfect partner to siphon Mom's money. The foundation in Mom's name was a sham, a front to launder the funds while Claire played the devoted niece. I needed more. The hospital's financial office was my next stop. Posing as Mom's proxy, I requested copies of her medical bills and payment records. The clerk, a kind woman named Marta, handed me a thick folder. "Your cousin's been handling everything," she said, her tone warm. "She's a saint." I forced a smile, my stomach churning. The records showed payments to legitimate providers, but there were also transfers to an unfamiliar account labeled Lillian Harper Foundation. The amounts were staggering: $200,000 here, $300,000, $000 there. Nearly $1 million gone in 6 months. I confronted Mom gently, not wanting to stress her fragile heart. "Did you set up a foundation, Mom?" I asked one afternoon, her eyes half closed. She frowned, confused. "A foundation? No, sweetheart. I just wanted to leave something for you. And the church." Her words broke me. She had no idea her life's savings were vanishing. Claire noticed my probing. She grew colder, her smiles tighter. "You're looking tired, Em," she said one evening, her voice laced with warning. "Maybe you should take a break." I played along, pretending to back off, but I was already planning. I contacted a lawyer, Sarah Klein, a friend from college who specialized in financial fraud. Sarah was blunt. "This is theft, Emily. But it's tricky." Claire's covered her tracks well. "We need concrete evidence linking her to the transfers, and we need it fast." Sarah helped me file a request for a forensic audit of Mom's accounts. It was a risk. Claire might notice the inquiry, but I had no choice. The audit revealed what I'd feared: Mom's savings, once robust, were nearly depleted. The transfers to the foundation were routed through offshore accounts, making them hard to trace. But Sarah found a thread: One account was linked to a shell company in Claire's name, Dawson Ventures. It was sloppy, a crack in her perfect scheme. I also reached out to a private investigator, a gruff man named Tom who came recommended by Sarah. Tom dug into Victor Grayson's dealings and found a pattern: other elderly clients. Similar foundations. All drained dry. Claire wasn't his first partner in crime, but she was his boldest. She's got nerve, Tom said, handing me a file. But she's not untouchable. As the evidence piled up, so did my resolve. Claire had betrayed Mom, betrayed our family, and I wouldn't let her walk away. But I had to be careful. Mom's health was fading, and I couldn't risk her finding out. Not yet. The truth would shatter her. I'd protect her, even if it meant waging this war in the shadows. The hospital's hum became my backdrop, a constant reminder of time slipping away. Mom's condition worsened: a bad infection, the doctors said, complicating her treatment. I spent every moment I could with her, reading her favorite poems, brushing her thinning hair, trying to anchor her to the world. But Claire's shadow loomed larger, her presence a poison I couldn't ignore. The evidence was mounting, but I needed to confront her without tipping her off. Claire was too cunning to crack under pressure alone. I had to trap her. Sarah, my lawyer, suggested a sting. Get her to admit something on record, she said. A confession, even partial, could seal the case. Tom, the investigator, agreed to help. He'd uncovered more about Victor Grayson's pending lawsuit from another victim's family. If we could link Claire to him definitively, we'd have her. I set the stage carefully. One evening, when Mom was asleep, I asked Claire to meet me in the hospital's quiet garden courtyard. The air was crisp, the stars hidden by city lights. I held a small recorder in my pocket, its weight a reassurance. We need to talk about Mom's money, I said, keeping my tone even. Claire's eyes narrowed, but her smile stayed. What's there to talk about? I've got it under control. I found the transfers. Claire. The foundation. The offshore accounts. I know what you're doing. Her smile faltered. Just for a second. You're paranoid. Those are legitimate payments. Ask the lawyer who set it up. Victor Grayson, I said, watching her closely. Her jaw tightened. Attell. I know about him. And Dawson Ventures. You're stealing from Mom. And I have proof. She laughed. But it was brittle. Proof. You're grasping at straws. I'm helping Aunt Lillian, not hurting her. Then show me the foundation's records. I pressed. Show me where the money's going. She stepped closer, her voice low. You don't get it, do you? This is bigger than you. Aunt Lillian's money is funding something important: research. Here's. You think I'd steal from family? Research doesn't need offshore accounts. I shot back. Admit it. Claire. You're taking her life's work for yourself. She hesitated, and I saw a flicker of fear. You're making a mistake, she said, turning to leave. But the recorder caught every word, and I knew it was enough to start building a case. The next day, I met with Sarah and Tom. The recording wasn't a full confession, but it showed Claire's defensiveness, her lies. Sarah filed for a court order to freeze Mom's remaining accounts, citing suspected fraud. Tom tracked Claire's movements, discovering she'd been meeting Victor at a downtown office. He got photos Claire handing Victor a flash drive, their faces tense. It was another piece of the puzzle. But Claire wasn't done. She sensed the walls closing in and doubled down, playing the devoted niece to Mom and the hospital staff. She brought flowers, read to Mom, even cried on cue. The nurses adored her, oblivious to her deceit. It made my blood boil, but I kept my cool. Mom couldn't know, not yet. Her heart wouldn't take it. One night, I overheard Claire on the phone in her room. Her voice hushed but frantic. "We need to move the rest now," she said. "She's onto us." I realized she was planning to drain what little was left before the court order took effect. I alerted Sarah, who expedited the freeze. By morning, the accounts were locked, and Claire's access was cut off. She confronted me in the hospital hallway, her mask finally slipping. "You think you're clever," she hissed. "You're ruining everything." "I'm saving Mom," I said, my voice steady. "And I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did." Her face twisted with rage, but she walked away. I knew it wasn't over. Claire was desperate, and desperate people were dangerous. But I was ready. For Mom, I'd fight to the end. Mom's condition stabilized, but the doctors were clear she didn't have long. Weeks, maybe months. Every moment with her felt like a stolen gift, and I clung to them, even as the battle with Claire raged on. The court order had frozen Mom's accounts, but Claire was still a step ahead. Her connections with Victor Grayson giving her options I hadn't anticipated. I needed to end this not just for justice, but for Mom's peace. Sarah and Tom were relentless. Sarah filed a civil suit against Claire and Victor, alleging fraud and elder abuse. The evidence bank records, emails. The recording was enough to get the case moving. But it was slow. Too slow. Tom, meanwhile, uncovered a bombshell. Victor had been funneling the stolen money into a real estate scheme, buying properties under shell companies. One was a luxury condo in Miami, listed under Dawson Ventures. Claire wasn't just stealing. She was building a new life on Mom's suffering. I decided to go public. Sarah warned it could complicate the case, but I couldn't let Claire keep her facade. I contacted a local journalist, Rachel Lee, who'd written exposés on financial scams. Rachel was skeptical at first. Family disputes were messy, but when I showed her the evidence, her eyes lit up. "This is big," she said. "Give me a week." While Rachel worked, I kept watch on Claire. She was unraveling, her charm cracking under pressure. She snapped at nurses, avoided Mom's room, and spent hours on her phone, likely plotting with Victor. I worried she'd flee, but Tom assured me he had eyes on her. "She's not going anywhere," he said. Rachel's article hit the local paper like a thunderclap. Headlined, "Family Betrayal. Niece accused of stealing $1 million from dying aunt." It laid out Claire's scheme in stark detail, quoting bank records and my testimony. The story spread online, shared across social media, and soon, strangers were messaging me with support. Claire's name was dragged through the mud, her carefully crafted image shattered. She confronted me in the hospital parking lot, her face pale with fury. "You think you've won," she spat. "You've ruined my life. But I'm not done." "You ruined yourself," I said, my voice calm but steel. "And I'm not stopping until every cent is back and your name is nothing." She stormed off, but I knew she was cornered. The article had caught the attention of the district attorney, who opened a criminal investigation. Claire and Victor were now facing charges: fraud, theft, and conspiracy. The net was tightening, but the victory felt hollow. Mom was fading, her moments of clarity fewer each day. One afternoon, she grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Emily," she whispered, "I'm so proud of you. Don't let this break you." I choked back tears, promising her I wouldn't. I didn't tell her about Claire. I couldn't. She deserved to leave this world believing in the family she loved. Sarah called with news. The court had ordered the seizure of Dawson Ventures' assets, including the Miami condo. It wasn't enough to recover all the money, but it was a start. More importantly, Claire's reputation was in tatters. Her social media accounts went dark. Her friends distanced themselves. and her name became synonymous with betrayal in our small town. I sat with Mom that night, reading her favorite poem, Invictus. Her breathing was slow, her hand limp in mine. I knew the end was near, but I also knew I'd kept my promise. Claire's greed wouldn't define Mom's legacy. I'd make sure of it. The hospital room was quiet now, the machines silenced. Mom passed in the early hours of a Tuesday, her hand in mine, a faint smile on her lips. I'd read to her until the end, her favorite stories filling the space between us. Lillian Harper, the woman who'd taught me love, strength, and forgiveness, was gone. The grief was a tidal wave, but beneath it burned a fire Claire would not escape. The funeral was small, just close friends and family. Minus Claire. She didn't dare show her face. Not after Rachel's article and the criminal charges. The town had turned on her, whispers following her every move. I spoke at the service, sharing stories of Mom's kindness, her laughter, her unshakable faith in people. I didn't mention Claire. She didn't deserve to be part of Mom's memory. Sarah and Tom kept pushing. The criminal case against Claire and Victor was gaining traction, with more victims coming forward. Victor's other clients, elderly, vulnerable, had stories eerily similar to Mom's. The DA was building a case for racketeering, a charge that could put them away for years. Sarah recovered another $200, 000 from a frozen account, which I donated to a real cancer research foundation in Mom's name. It wasn't the full $1 million, but it was something. Claire tried to fight back. She hired a lawyer, a slick man who spun tales of her innocence and misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming: bank records, emails, the recording, even Victor's own paper trail. He turned on her, offering a plea deal to save himself. Claire's world was crumbling, and I watched it fall with a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. She'd been family once. Rachel's article had gone national, picked up by bigger outlets. Claire's name was now a cautionary tale, a symbol of greed and betrayal. Her socialite life, her parties, her connections was gone. She was persona non grata, her name erased from the circles she'd once charmed. I didn't need to do more. The world had done it for me. But I wasn't done. I wanted Mom's legacy to shine brighter than Claire's shadow. I used the recovered money to start a scholarship in Mom's name, for single mothers pursuing education, just as she had. I spoke at community events, sharing her story, her love, her strength. Each time I spoke, I felt her with me, guiding me. Claire's name faded, while Mom's grew. One day, I got a letter from Claire. No return address, just her sharp handwriting. "You think you've won," it read, "but you'll never understand what I was trying to do." No apology, no remorse, just defiance. I burned it. She didn't get to rewrite the story. The legal battle dragged on, but I had time. I returned to teaching, finding solace in my students' eager faces. Mom's house, now mine, was filled with her things, her books, her quilts, her warmth. I kept her memory alive, not just for me, but for everyone she'd touched. Claire's trial was set for next month. I'd be there, not for revenge, but for Mom, to see justice done, to make sure her name, not Claire's, was remembered. The courtroom was cold, its wooden benches worn smooth by years of grief and justice. I sat in the front row, my hands clasped tightly, as Claire's trial began. She sat at the defendant's table, her sharp features dulled by months of scrutiny. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a plain suit, her hair pulled back tightly. She didn't look at me, but I felt her presence like a storm cloud. The prosecution laid out the case with precision: bank records, emails, witness testimonies from other victims. Victor Grayson, in a separate trial, had already pleaded guilty. His betrayal of Claire sealing her fate. My recording was played, her voice echoing through the courtroom, defensive and evasive. The jury listened, stone-faced. I thought of Mom, her gentle smile, and held back tears. This was for her. Claire's lawyer tried to paint her as a misguided altruist, claiming she'd intended to fund research. But the evidence was a tidal wave $1 million stolen, laundered through fake foundations and offshore accounts. The scholarship I'd started in Mom's name was mentioned, a stark contrast to Claire's greed. The jury deliberated for only a day. Guilty on all counts: fraud, theft, elder abuse. Claire was sentenced to 7 years. Her assets seized to repay victims. It wasn't enough to bring back Mom's savings, but it was justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave a brief statement, my voice steady. This isn't about revenge, I said. It's about my mother, Lillian Harper, and the love she gave the world. That's what I want remembered. Rachel, the journalist, hugged me. Her article now a book deal, with proceeds going to Mom's scholarship. Claire's name was a footnote, fading fast. I returned to Mom's house, now my sanctuary. The scholarship was thriving, with 3 women already enrolled in college, their dreams fueled by Mom's legacy. I taught my classes, volunteered at the hospital, and spoke at events, sharing Mom's story, her kindness, her strength, her faith. They outshone Claire's betrayal. I felt her with me, in the rustle of leaves outside her window, in the laughter of my students, in the quiet moments when I missed her most. Claire wrote again, from prison this time. I'm sorry, she wrote, the words hollow. I didn't respond. She'd made her choices, and I'd made mine. Her name was gone, erased not by vengeance, but by the truth. Mom's name, though, lived on in the scholarship, in the stories I told, in the lives she'd touched. One evening, I sat on Mom's porch, a quilt she'd made draped over my shoulders. The stars were bright, the air cool. I thought of her final words, "Don't let this break you." It hadn't. It had made me stronger, fiercer, more like her. I'd fought for her, protected her legacy, and ensured that Claire's greed would never define her. Lillian Harper's name was etched in love, in hope, in everything good. And that was enough.